Now today, on text, how to say, some essential part of this text I want to explain. But then, my English not adequate, and not only that, some of these words in English vocabulary not adequate. Originally, all this in Sanskrit language, but Sanskrit now dead language. So only Tibetan. Of course, for me, much easier to explain through my own mother tongue. As I mentioned yesterday, the Buddha's second Dharma wheel, the Sanskrit tradition, the Shantadawa's book, according the Panchaparamita Sutra. So, in Buddha's first Dharma wheel, as you know, as I already mentioned, Four Noble Truth. Then, Dungne Dhamma Sundra Zane, Tati Inda, Dungne Dhamma Sundra Kaduliya, any Meda Dungne Tong Dame Shi, Kunju Sundra Zane, Gyu Kunju Rabki Genshi, then Gopa Shiwa Janong Genjung, then Lam Ribu Trubu Genjins. Sungsha Dadi, the Tus Mare Kozul Shavinada, Mida Dunge Dong Dame Seni, Dabashi, Casa Dunge de Began, Caju Shitsuni, the Vegeta Chiseng surgery, Chi Ma Shave Sorch, Janida, Mida Wadalia, Ragwe Medawa, Chai Medawa, the Gumdi so Chai Medaw Sungiari. Benachirama and Davalia, any Tangukiwa, part of Neva, then Gawa, Gavas, then Jibus, any Seni Jeso Shisi Sungdua, called Neva Sajik Sungdua, the nation Ge, then Jigdragic. Dodebe any look that Dodebe and Jaggy. 다 간다이니 제 메다과 송샤디 라고 메다과 잠마레스 라고 메다과 용양 코라 계지 지구 등에 임바 인두잖네 아니 라고 메다과도 용거하라 마도 계지 지구 등에 매바이나 아니 라고 메다과도 용거 마레스 제네니 다 라고 메다과도 진중기양 코로코레 규진 용거하래 다 차에다가 시선에 거를 계지해야 돼. 친중 유시하나 때문에 거 봐. 계지 규코레 아니 지구에 당이도 제버렸어. 제가 도슨 송거래. 제가가 다 계지 지구에 당이 젠데 두이왕게 제버 인도산에 다 두이 상완제랬어. 또 두이 상완제. 다 되네 인도 금들이 독dengi 풍부dengi 아니 메다동에 동담에 숨고여 인도산에 다 두관계 상황제랬으나 독den 기지기다 두 레뉴인데 되는 자원 묘모 다 대상황제랬으잖아요 다 레뉴인지 상황제기 풍부디 다 동해버릇이 뭐지 그 시도야도 봐 저들이 인도산에 지집니다 레동에 동엘레는 담에송 다 담에서 되는 마수윤도 ene 풍부 계지계지 지배더니 딘데 인도산에 ene 초직네 ene 풍불레 된 셴베다 다德지랑 다 야마레스德지랑 다 동바 다가는 신기 다음에 있어야 돼 페이지 좀더 시간로 그랬던 되대하기 아니 강사랑제 되게 제일 동에 강사가 다음에 있어야 돼 페이지 잖아 다 지금 좀 sometimes 동사야 되기 아니 군다 다 동바다 아니 지고디 딱도 좀더 다셔야다 풍불레 된시에德지랑 다 동바레스 아니 다음에 있어야 돼 다 들려야 겹치를 다는 편지 아니 가사란 유튜브에 제스트에 다요 말이 가사란 유튜브에 제일 다음에 말했어요. 전에다 콜 담백하돌이야. 가사가 다음에 있어야지 송도가. 다들 가사를 보는 시리 다 실사고 덜 만들 시켜야 된다. 콜로 발배 아니 그도록 송기야래. 다 안돼 아니 콜로 발배 땅 주는 유대한 대학의 실험임고 근데 실험임고 나래야 다 오다가 아니 부분가부터 다 라야 러시 동반도 뭐야도 버셔서 따오스 신송도가 제사가 다 콜로 담백하돌이야 강사가 다음에 제송체 다도 콜로 발배하돌이야 아니 강사 다음에 와서 마세베 풍부야 다음에 버려서 다 뒤송네 다 최지 다음에 쓰네 질 다음에야 강사 다음에 최지 다음에 이송도와 다 딘난가 거에 롱저버도 다 매바당 롱제제 풍속이 되게 최대이디 다 매봤어. 다 디간 조여래. 롱저버보다 롱제자. 그다음 녀 램바다 녀 램버보다 녀 램바. 도시 송도가. 어디르샤. 쟤네다 디 가서 어린건 그냥 디실로 주다. 깨쳤죠. 젊으시한다 뒤져 장도 치면 아니야. 애니 우모원 남지 애니 최첨지 때는 따버려 선배 갱상 텀비 양도 쪼버시도서 더 갱상 통보실로 줘.
So, with regard to the Four Noble Truths, there are the 16 characteristics or the aspects of the Four Noble Truths for each of the Four Noble Truths. And so, regarding the Noble Truth of suffering or true suffering, the characteristic features that I explained are those of impermanence, suffering, and empty nature, and then also selflessness. And so, with regard to these, the first these features, it's actually giving a general sort of understanding of these features or the aspects of the suffering, true suffering. And so, regarding the first aspect, which is that of the impermanence, of course, impermanence can be understood in terms of the gross or the coarser level of impermanence, and also the subtle level of impermanence. And so, according to the different schools of thought, for example, Vaibhashikas, when they describe something being impermanent, they usually describe it as having arisen and then abiding, and then there's also a phase of decay, and then finally disintegration. And so, whereas this is a kind of rough understanding of the impermanent nature, whereas the Sautrantikas and the school of thought above it, Chittamatra and Madhyamakas included, they not only describe the impermanence in terms of this coarser level, but they describe it in terms of the moment by moment change in things. And so if there is no moment-by-moment change in things, then you cannot see the gross changes that they are obvious to us, and therefore the very fact that things decay and disintegrate is because of the very cause that has brought it about, and so the cause that has brought about the result is the cause for the disintegration of that effect as well, and therefore what we understand from this is that the things that are momentarily changing moment by moment are subject to the causes, and therefore because of that reason, when we talk about the second aspect of the suffering, the true suffering, which is suffering nature, because it is subject to its causes and conditions, and here the cause refers to those of the karma and the destructive emotions. And so, because of being under the influence or subject to its causes, which are those of the karma and delusions, therefore, the very nature of our existence, the psychophysical aggregates, is in the nature of suffering. So this is how we understand from the fact that it is subject to change because of its causes. Therefore, we have this very existence is in the nature of suffering, and then the third aspect is empty nature, which more or less could be interpreted in terms of the coarser understanding of the selflessness, which is to say that there is the lack of the absence of a permanent, single, and autonomous self, and in other words, this kind of self is more or less kind of philosophically concocted by philosophical schools, and it's not. When you have that kind of grasping at a permanent, single, and autonomous self, it's not an innate kind of grasping at a self, but philosophically concocted. And so, whereas the deeper understanding of the subtler understanding of the selflessness is that of the selflessness in terms of self, a person or a being, being devoid of any kind of substantially self-sufficiently existent self. So that's the more subtle level of understanding of the selflessness, which is the fourth characteristic or the aspect of suffering. And when it comes to explaining it in more detail about this subtle called selflessness, then the Buddha gave the second wheel of Dharma, the perfection of wisdom teachings, and therefore in the Heart Sutra we find mention of the five psychophysical aggregates also are without any intrinsic nature, and so that refers to this subtle selflessness of a person and phenomena. And so within this phrase or sentence, there is the term also refers to the fact that not only the person is without any kind of independent, that kind of self-sufficiently existent self, but even the psychophysical aggregates themselves are devoid of such a way of existence as well. And so, in other words, the person as the enjoyer or the experiencer of the psychophysical aggregates does not have any kind of intrinsic existence, and so too is the case with the psychophysical aggregates, which are the objects.
Oh yeah. 자상하다. 콜로 당부 den시션고 다 발리나라 예데 발리다 렉산자로 투모 차되게요래. 저 산제베 지역에 멍실 차되도 자상하다. 되네마 전에 패지 좀더 시시한인데 패지 지라마 패지 또다 되네마 용기였어요. 저들이 인도산에 전도 얘기 지단 강사가 다음에 마도 저희 다음에 수고야 말해. 다 콜로 발에 풍몽아부터다 짱 풍몽아부터다 라양 러시도 뭐나 뭐냐 비슷하고 지는다 롱 제제 풍속이 뒤에 천지 참말로 아니 원이지 뭐를 했으니다 최이담에도 소용도가 저다 콜로 바르베 아니 슝르 때네 아니 다 최이담에 남샤서 숨고야래 다디 아니 다 간다 아니 전도니기 배지 강사가 되면 좋지 나 최이담에 아니 샘자보다 다 웃음 얘기 최이담에도 숨고야래 저 다시 내가 좀 잘해서 다도 자시로 나리야 아니 자시로 고불루기 리지트에 나라 지시 풍부를 진여바 티시텔라 난진여 신이 자다 강사 풍부관 상마당 전에 그다음에 덕시 풍부관 상마당 제 딱추 거래 간도 상단 집에는 완전 로레 샤데오스도가 나서야디 나이 류다 나이 셈다 지들이 봐도 상단은 나냐메 되지 롤거로 쉬어도가 아니 나이 류스러이네 아니 고다 라고다 지에네 데 또다 아니 지 강바드 주시는 샤이운데 샤샤세요나 류사디 그래서 나서야디 디가는 냐메 되지 롤 패지 쉬어도가 차 날라오도가 서다 풍속이 쉬어디 강사 강도다고 시리래라 다디 그게 저기 나스르도 다셔버지 할람로 쉬어도가 봤잖아 다 풍속이 쉬어디 리규 청주여대 봐 아니 생기 디두고 초원용주여대 봐 디두고 초원용되기도가 저들이 인도산에 다 풍속이 쉬어디 야 아태근 ዝበ디 갖다 넣어가버려 저다 지시 아니 덕시 풍속이 쉬어디 땡라 각자 객배 아니 동상king 해봐 숙성부터 장모토나 아니 강사 란저트베 자유 동바장게 지금 로를 샤워이네 디 강사가 다음에 차상지 떠야 말이야 강사가 다음에 라고스도 마도 저 디리 인도산에 마다 우머지 지타나 송샤데 지시 풍부진이 티지텔라 난지에 다디 난지에는 그냥 가르스나 가사 다 간다 지금 뒤에는 가지 난지에는 텔레자이네 다난 루게면 알다 난지에는 양레테 레레자네 겨운조로스잖아 다 독신 송되기도 와 저다 가서무지 럽사를 레더냐면 세베 타를 레더냐면 남도래 드다절려 저번에 동원이가 와주사 다 디가 다다 레용도 와 상한조 냠용탄도 사람다면이네 아니 강사 란저트베 자수주버지 야마르세도 로르샤 데보레 그런 아래 루지우셰이네 패지 롱업주스코네 강사 또 스타드를 자니 요데 아니 남민도 사바지 로지 숙심 쉬우시게요 레디 풍속 때문에야 된저그 동배로디 동상으로디 실금도 와 되게 뭐시버들이 따다 중사디 다시기다 다와삼 동에서 냠냠 찍고 용되도 라 다전에 그 뒤에는 강사가 다음에 락바드마도 강사 다음에 참모디 강사 다음에 장다 천이상한데 또요 말이다 강사가 다음에 천이상한데 도야래야 풍부가부터다 라이어를 시 동원하고 봐야도 따오사 디간 좋고도가 디내가 첨부해 서다 다음에 니기 남샤디 어다 되게니 간다이니 가시고래 나르진베로 그다음 은지 덴지 강사가 덴지 덴제디 아니 바 디신유 순충벽관에 아니 강사가 등진고 바 가다 글리글리니 가다 숙자돼야지 용기하래 다 드네 인도산에 강사가 다음에 저기 다음에서네 아니 다 강사가 다음에 저기 다음에 랑주버 타녀도 랑즈 신의 면적이 강사가 다음에지 아니 콜로 담불금의 송셔가 다가란다 또 송셔지르샤 다 타녀도 랑즈 미시베니 다 우모바 다 뭐냐 전에 그 남주 뭐냐 전에 표도 좀 된대지가 타네다 딱 제시는 소인도 전에 아니 강사가 다음에 주의 다음에서 최신 강사다 아니 풍속 대왕의 마도 지르니 각자 원이 주베 ngoni tuba de shani te tongbe dame ta ya taraya maris da 가서 로안이는 남 가서 티 최다음에 예배 남이 손디 거기 가서 어때 다음에 되는 로안 남들 쳐다 가서 예배 남이 손 케시 동시 기타네 아니 가서 다음에 최다음에 손모도 가서 찾아야 말이 신다 손셔야 되래 그래서 다 되게 다음에 있어야 돼 손 다좀 된대기 아니 시진이다 너나래야 아주 되게 쉬하고 부모하고 다 장으로 지도로 한다고 싶다고 세. 엔데네마다 조치다면 손이 속동보 동번이 소소소를 동번이 샤머니 동번이를 소샤마이 노선이 동니 시고데 마송. 데네마치는다 시 풍금 지지기 최디에다. 아니 람게다 사람게다. 다가는 시기에는 제비연의 참말로 아니 다들 니기요 말이스. 뭐니 좀 야 말이 진짜 두순 거야. 다 되게 다 공지 가서 시원 나시 시진은 너의 뭐된 동의가 좀 차대요. 맞아 다 견진 두순 좀 가도 순자리네. 아니 최생은 남사지 마 손네. 시달런던 제비 최디디마 최생의 동시 최생의 수도 마 손네. 대탐제의 명점 다점 chen. 다 되게 있는 다음에 가는 마 샤이고도가 다음에 다음에 배운 거 뭐, 지구도가 저들이 인도 아니 뭐든 동력을 좀 봤어요. 다 배운 거도 이제 봤으니 이체네. 뭐든 동력을 좀 봤다. 거버디 고불루야 갑합체. 아니 공기다 르즈도주 조 자시르리. 아니 대야나 도리야 아니 르즈도 한번 뒤체. 아니 자체별로 땡기. 자체별로 뭐 자녀신 소한테 우머지 청한체 다 도스르샤. 다 10월에 슝디 아니 고물루고 지어서 다행에 가다 타녀도 랑세 미시베 우마베 룩디 차되게 하래.
So, with regard to the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha gave the teaching on the Four Noble Truths. And regarding this teaching, it is a shared teaching between both the Pali tradition and the Sanskrit tradition. And the teaching of the Four Noble Truths becomes the foundational teaching of the entire teaching of the Buddha. And so based on this Four Noble Truths and teaching of the Four Noble Truths, the Vaibhashika and Sotantika and so forth, these schools developed or came into being. And regarding the teaching of selflessness in this teaching, in the Four Noble Truths, the Vaibhashikas and Sotantikas do not assert what is known as selflessness of phenomena, but they do assert the selflessness of the persons. And whereas in the Sanskrit tradition, in the second turning, as I mentioned earlier also, what is mentioned is not only the selflessness of persons, but also the selflessness of person, but the selflessness of phenomena as well. And so, as already explained, the Heart Sutra says the five aggregates also do not have any intrinsic nature. And therefore, this second turning of the wheel of Dharma shows that things have no intrinsic or essential existence in and of itself. And so, because of that, it teaches that of the selflessness of person, phenomena. And then the Chittamatras, of course the Chittamatras, the Minority school and the Madhyamaka school do assert both the selflessnesses. And when with regard to realizing these two selflessnesses, Master Nagarjuna says that as long as there is a grasping and clinging onto the psychophysical aggregates as having some kind of essential existence, you cannot do away with these, grasping at the self of a person as well. And And because of that, then because of this self grasping at the self of a person, then there is the creation of karma, and through that, and then the rebirth happens. And so, when we think about ourselves, of course, what happens to us is that there is, when we think about this, our body, our mind, and so forth. Of course, in terms of whether there is a self which is independently existing or not. I mean, we can say that, of course, I'm not the body, nor the mind, and nor my head, and the limbs, and the guts and so forth. And when you try to find a person within these aggregates.
One German scientist, brain specialist, his name, Wolf Singer. On occasion, our meeting, you see, he draw our brain. Then he explained according to the structure of the brain, there's no place of central authority. All, you see, brain work, you see, carry, combined, interrelated. So then he mentioned the Buddhist concept, selflessness. It's very fit. The soul, concept of soul, difficult. If there is soul, then in the center of the brain, there must be something, the central sort of authority. He mentioned that. He's a scientist, of course. Recently I met him. You see, he do not believe the rebirth or subtle consciousness. And of course, since I great respect for him, so I didn't sort of raise at the conference. At the lunchtime, and then I asked, yesterday I mentioned, you see, there are people who remember about past life. It's fact. And also after death, the physical remain very fresh. I mentioned these two things to him. What scientists say? No answer. Oh.
So when you try to look for the self within these aggregates, the parts of the body and our body and so forth, of course it may be easy to say that this I does not exist. It's not the body, it's not the head and limbs and so forth. And so you may be able to kind of gain some kind of insight into the selflessness of person as such. But then the difficult thing with this investigation of the selflessness is when you actually relate it to our psychophysical aggregates, the body, the form, the body and the mind and so forth. That gets more difficult. Your experiences, because it seems that there is this, some kind of a solidity in the body, some kind of experience in the mind, and so you may think that although self does not exist, these psychophysical aggregates do have some intrinsic existence, and therefore it becomes more difficult to do away with this clinging to the psychophysical aggregates rather than clinging to the self as such. Of course, you may gain some understanding of, in the beginning, some understanding of selflessness of person and phenomena, but then it may be just that it's easier, of course, to gain this insight into a selflessness in the sense of the lack of substantially existent self, called But then, even though you may have some insight into that kind of selflessness, still you cannot. You are not able to do away with it, or you cannot have a complete or total understanding of selflessness as such. And therefore, as the verse from Master Nagarjuna's Ratnavali was quoted, it says, as long as there is this grasping at the psychophysical aggregates, to that extent, you cannot do away with the overcome that grasping at a self as well. And so and similarly, when it comes to understanding this selflessness, we also had this called verse that was quoted yesterday. But through this elimination of the karma and delusions, there is liberation, and karma and delusion arise from this conceptual, exaggerated outlook, and those in turn arise from the fabricated, state of called cognition. And then that is done away with by or through emptiness. And so when you try to understand or gain insight into selflessness, it's easier to gain understanding or the insight into this lack of self-sufficiently, substantially existent self. And from my own experience, for maybe about more than 20 years ago, I had this experience of the insight into selflessness.
20 years ago.
No.
40 years ago.
Sorry. So around 40 years ago, I had this experience of selflessness, but when I actually related to the self, no. So someone is saying perhaps he should have the flute in his hands to.
Something goes wrong, then I make it.
So about 40 years ago, I had this experience of selflessness, and then when I thought about the self, the selflessness on the basis of the self, the person itself, and myself, then it was easier to gain insight into the selflessness. But when this focus is shifted to the body or the psychophysical aggregates, the mind-body constituent, then it was getting more difficult to get that insight into selflessness. And so from that experience, and what I could understand was that I had this rough understanding, or the coarser level of understanding or insight into selflessness, not the deeper one. And so similarly, there are people whom I know who had similar experience of selflessness, of in the sense of this lack of self-sufficiently, substantially existent self. And so it's important to, in other words, important to understand both the subtle and the coarser level of the selflessness. It's called.
This one.
So. When you have this understanding or insight into the selflessness that things do not have any true existence, the psychophysical aggregates, and do not have any true existence in themselves, and then it helps to reduce your intensity of your grasping at the self as well, and the person as well. And therefore, you need to have both understanding. It's important to have both understandings of selflessness of persons and phenomena. And when we relate this to the four schools of thought within Buddhism, those of the schools below the Savatantrika Madhyamakas and schools below it, they make a distinction between, the subtlety, in terms of the subtlety between the selflessness of persons and selflessness of phenomena. And called those of the Madhyamakas, even though they are the followers of the Master Nagarjuna's Madhyamaka tradition, there are those who still hang on to some kind of objective existence in things, like Savtantrika Madhyamakas. And so this Savtantrika Madhyamaka and the schools below it make this distinction in subtlety, whereas the Madhyamakas, who do not assert even a particle of an iota of the called intrinsic existence in things, objective existence in things, for them there is no distinction in terms of subtlety between the selflessness of persons and phenomena. It's only a difference. The difference is only that the object or the onto which you establish emptiness or selflessness, when the person or the psychophysical aggregates, and apart from that, there is no subtlety. Difference in subtlety between the two selflessnesses, and therefore in the Heart Sutra, there's mention of the 5 aggregates also are without any intrinsic nature, and and then it goes on to say that form is empty, emptiness is form, and it also mentions form is empty, emptiness is form. Form is not other than emptiness, and for emptiness too is not other than form. And so and then in this, so this comes within the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, where there's this understanding that there is no difference in terms of subtlety between the two selflessnesses, and then in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, also there is all these others called subjects onto which emptiness is established, like those of it goes through those of the ground level, the path level, and then the resultant level, and so. And then in the in the Panchaparamita Sutras, also there's mentioned that after having mentioned the path, the ground, the path, and the resultant things having no intrinsic existence at all, it summarizes by saying all this are mere name, called mere nominally existent. And so, with regard to the Panchaparamita teachings, we make this distinction between the explicit teaching of emptiness, which is, more or less explained or explicated further by Master Nagarjuna in his Madhyamaka, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, and then with regard to what is known as the hidden hidden kind of content of these Prajnaparamita teachings, which is the path, the progression along the path. It is explained in his texts such as Ratnavali and so forth. And then with regard to the Shantideva's writings, he follows this tradition of the Madhyamaka, who assert not even an iota of, who do not assert even an iota of any intrinsic existence in things.
Oh yeah. 자상가 지시 풍부 대버지 대지 여버지도 아니 가사가 된지 기그레 했는데 되게 롱차야지. 다디 디송요래 기부선이 주머니 매면 롱면 나가면 남시만이 꾸면은 달래셔는 기부강. 세다 다들 제도 기부 가사서야지 저 니는 이해하면 되시죠. 다 기부 검준 어느 가사 때는 매버려 봤을라나 달래셔는 기부 검준 뇌베 칠 기부 아무 가사서야 돼 검준 뇌버로 때는 딱 삼치래. 기부 검준 뇌베 칠 양다만이 제다와 디신 캄네래양 뇌치 양다니도 민스 기부하면 강사 강도 따고 시 풍속의 최대에 대해 다든잖아 니야메 되버치레스 다디 쇼구데 돔 쳐보시도와 수징어고 명점칠 나가야네 명점모 중미 수다 칼라식 디시 명점 니자 매센 쉬우쉬우셔보도와 그다음에 수세도 자가지는 니야야 말이스 수징어고 명점 인도잖아 각자 토리 숙디 명점인데 각자 토리 숙 각성게 나가서야 돼 명점레스 너는 늦어도 늦어지게 최 참말로 명점레스 다 명진게 최 늦어도 늦어지게 최 명진게 최 뒤에 명점인도잖아 명거래 명점레스 다 되게 믹스 타다 식은 것도 가. 나한테 로리야 나사르지. 아니 나이 뒤두사로. 칭아의 풍소사로. 지금 뭔고 지금 그게 다 난징이 높게 그 댄스로 뭔고 지금 이제 참을 높아 식인 밑에 타다 식인도 자네. 아니 나는 집에 놓고 댄서 그렇게는 매 되지. 다 민도 삼아실로 실리기도. 때는 매번 왜서는 말이 풍불로 때에 가서다고 난시 아니 덕시 풍속 처디에 랑랑게 아니 저 교리견 소리 랑랑게 가다 덕시를 때에 두도 스타레스 다디 파바바자 유니자네 다 민고왕게 여성사를 차버려 다 시직중 나로라 최전이도 마송네 내 탐제의 민점 다섬사 다 대부분 도치는 거 다 더동 우면 중나 야송사 다 디들이 교로주고 도시 생활 된지 교문의 제윤도 전에 규기스가 세하게 두여르디 자는 이야기다 봐. 근데 뭐를 주고 직도 차지 된지 제윤도 전에 이야기다 봐. 아니 제비문의 자 예미 경고 된지 아니 견정 뭐 순간으로 저 땡지기 땡지선 너나 아니 고불루기 어디래 아사 땡진 저번 중앙강 되는 동반이 두셔 되는 때는 딱바데 디니 우메 라면노스 kanshi tenju mo yin bi chonga yebo mo yin ti tonggo mo yin bi chonga yebo mo yin no sa da dom chumbu da ti kyo ba de ba dongbe den de den de zhen mo yin ba zam ge ma re dongbe den de ngo ni gi dongbe den re ngo ni gi dongbe den de rang ge ngo du ya de 겐 도모 속에 때문에 여대 버지 샹나 때문에 줘 마도 샹나 떠보면 라왕 그 주요 말이스 배면서 야고르샤 저자다도 선의 상당연데 아니 남시 지 난게 용어이네 치르고 수소 쳐이네 강도 가이네 다 사무스 담바이나 단데 담저로 누구도 켜는 매 삼바치기 로로 나오는 시 때는 좀 삼바치고 코다 쳐버 좀 그도라 아니 댄징기 뭐 밑에 쳐서 배 싸우는 매 차버리 뒤쳐도 이니 댄징기 슈구마 총총으로 로대야지 지금 그 댄징기 슈총을 신배 저기 취미식 남도 기야도 슈총치 취미식 남도 기야도 가서 또 로스럽살래 취미식 남도 기야도 그 싫고 봐 아니 봐 지가서 점으로 차지 지도자네 아니 취미식 남도 타네 계약에 차단되되 아니 용도 돼야지 쉬우지래샤 아니 드레인데니 용목 있냐 볼이야 아니 순집이 있냐 보셔야지다 뻔 있냐 보셔야지 순집이 있냐 보셔야 되기 그도 배나 지금 대사 계약 있냐 볼이야 미도고야 아니 시장 계약 있냐 볼이야 참복고야 다들 저리 그도 지금 차단 그 나를 짜야 소리마도 차단 그 싸웠네 구조 땅에디 싸우고 쭉 용해디 드수치기야 말이 또 담에도 싫어되기 그다음에 뇽 싸워를 쭉 용도가 다 대야이니 고불루 사이도 오모 십제배 나라 르르르와 제신도 띠무군을 내주대 대신 뇽 탐제 이제 띠무 좀 줘버리고스 어느 띠무 좀 해야 가려서나 땡진 저번 중앙가 통는 띠무 중민주 대신 배박군인데 땀도 통만 내버려 쳤으니 어떻소냐 들으셔 다도 세상으로스타인데 이니 신의 지기다 산제베 쳐디 저 신의 가야지 되지 쉬우지셔 그래도 아니 참만 남지 그돌려 참을 기울레스 가려서나 돌아 팜버셔버스 쉬운데 버셔도 참을 기울 돌아 버셔 땀바 되잖아요 아니 대권은 이게 더 랑킹 내니 샤라 떠야지 요인도잖아요. 되게 더네. 아니 뭐네. 다 참여 기부 사주 통퇴하지. 또 야 샤는 먹으면 샤다 샤는 되는 말이 샤는 그거지. 이제 랑그 땀바때 다 아니 지금 마월라나 매봐. 마원 담에 그다. 다 된대지래. 아니 신의 이거냐 하시도가. 전시식 절부치기 전시식내 레슨고 죄지져서 로바로 그것하면 저 정도죠. 니근 싸워 똑치로서 댄지로 다니고 산지를 대바체에 된지 뚜루던 거면 누가 산지가 송시를 다음에 봐서야 돼 삼다인 된지 뚜용도 쉬워져서 저는 어디를 취지에서 대시성의 레슨 취지로 거기서 이거자와 도시로 취지 때문에 취지가 유리냐와 단식은 취지견은 몇번씩 나도 단식로서 자 견디서 몇번을 시작도 가르는 닥터 때는 게 알았어 등지 된지 현지 예배 타리야 안답에 군다 네가 내배 때문에 아니 된지 군다게 그게 뚱체 그 저리서로 시 아니 현지도 부대 되네 용되기도 와 교육 때문에 치시고 유능이와 댄세죠 치시견은 배워서 나도 따와 댄시로 에모고 캐베 니니 캐버로 콩도 죽이고 대서 깡코는 결 지식 금인교스 맞는 시래 너가 고 삼루쇼 당고 하시도가 삼루 땅 타마 투중 그 싫어지 대내 섬중 그 싫어 내가 거로니 아니 내가 입에 전달해야 투중 싫어서도 아니 지 퇴배 되지만 밀도 세계도 아니 디 좀서 가르쳐나 아니 라면 송기스 배전남도 쓸랍샤리 인디 스타샤 야말 산도 야말 다 퇴배 된달라 지도 퇴배전의 리고시 님도 찬도 수시 접단에 삼전날로 삼례 중앙에 남주 로이 태종 쳐버셔 선 다들 섬중기게 디셔요 양양 상다 다 된저가 상도 하리야 그 대바 잠면도 이 통고요 그다 대바 잠면다 반을 남배도 자신에 좀더 뭐 시부디기 소소소 섬주면 남아도 여기 셰고래 디셔는 잡아차요 직장자모도 마찬가지로 잡아차면 누가 저상을 고불루루다 전화를 러벨랭댕기 떡에 먹어 잡네 디나라라 대시 대도 야가를 여대에 좀더 용서로 숨도가 아니 토미의 인연이야 초담도 하라 그래 거기 숨샤 섬잡에 또도 무슨 건데 아니 좀 된데 룽기 심베 있는 고불루루기 있는 따와래 셴도 있는 섬섬에다 따와 마 짜체 토미다 루루니 뭐서 체메리스 들수도 자자가 어디를 딱 간다 좀더 먼저 별이야 뭐시다 자하네 로벨랭댕기 떡에 먹어디 좀더 차디야래 어머니 못 산지디 좀더 차디샤 다별 강생 종이야 대주마 콩을 자네 아니 아주 좀더 쓰네 좀 대표적 술 아주다 병아마야 술해야 되니까서 이걸로세 말해 이걸로세 좀더 지도 배지 마셔 잘다 다들 마찬가지니 가다 좀더 자셔가 이니 디 롱지람 집에 좀더 싫어요 요래 아니 그녀는 자연시에다 좀더 잔지 아니 다가는 신기 있니 가서디 그저 지금 좀더 지정한다 아니 드나마 장자 아니 좀더 셔는다 그저 별 개발도 많고 제도가 뒤에 그 다시 그게 좀 쉐베 소리지다 지기 바 남장 장시 소리 말이 상루동야를 개발시다요 그러다 자들도 도스네 아니 그 치점기 그게야 총 잠면데 더디야 거니 아니 심주체 아니 체리빈도 주디디 드나님도 수제제 또 시베이나 아니 삼전나라 삼례 중앙에 남주 로이 태종 쳐버셔 사대디 용기하래 다 태종 쳐니 예번에 된게 된다라 아니 심 진국이 견디디 뭐셔버 쳐니 진국이 견다 저와 셈베 제 지금 띵행진도 상당 시베이나 아니 갈래갈래 아니 뇽원도 좋다지기 용야래 다 아니 가데 수수는 사람체 가데 니버들도 잘람체 돈이를 공중 토비르잖아요 아니 잘람 토바래 다 아니 돈이 무슨 토이르잖아요 돈람 가데 빠른 거 됐어야지 되네 아니 그게 통방방 아니 갈레리아다 야 공방기 년부터 걸로 두서 레인잖아요. 가데 파라 상가데 사디 간레 아니 드지기다 rimbagyuni 아니 부디서 청주도 시속사디 영대하시도가 자 뒤도 쇠버려 쳐도 삐케지 버리셔 야 오케이 실 고스 게 멘제 피가 다 소로나.
So, as I quoted these lines from Master Nagarjuna's the Ratnavali, the precious garland, as long as there is this clinging to the psychophysical aggregates, to that extent you cannot overcome the self grasping at the self. And similarly, in this text, Master Nagarjuna goes on to says that a person is neither the earth, nor water, nor fire, nor wind, nor space, and not even the consciousness. And what else then is a person? And so, having said that, a person is none of these, the constituent factors that are the basis for the existence of a person, and he goes on to say that a person is this combination, or the designated on the basis of a combination of these 6 constituent factors. And so, and similarly, he goes on to say in the same text that there is the entity of the form or matter is mere name, and then he says that even the space in itself, this the space which is defined as the vacuity, which is free from or absent of the very absence of obstruction that is there in the space, and so even that space is mere name, and so if the elements themselves do not have any intrinsic existence, and what they need, and then how can there be a form or a matter which has any intrinsic existence? And therefore, even the name itself is a mere name. Do not have any, and even the name itself do not have any independent existence. And so, in this way, when we think about ourselves, of course, we have this sense or the notion that the self exists, as if there is some kind of a solidity or something there essentially existing there. And when we're thinking along these lines, when you are able to gain insight into the fact that things do not have any kind of objective existence, and then what happens is you get a sense that there is no self as such. And so, when you think along the selflessness of a person, you get this experience or the insight that the I do not have any intrinsic existence. Thinking along these lines, and so the psychophysical aggregates, which are the basis for the designation of a person, if they do not have any intrinsic existence, how can you have any kind of a notion of, or how can the person also have any intrinsic or independent existence as well? And so, with regards to this analysis into the analysis of a self, there are the different reasonings that are used. And so, with regard to the reasonings, there is this reasoning which is called the Vajra splinter, diamond splinter reasoning, which actually checks the whether things have any intrinsic existence in their causal level, and then there is this other reasoning which is called the absence of one and many, which is used to gain insight into the absence of any intrinsic nature of things, and checking into the nature of the things, and then when you check into the selflessness of the products or the results, you have the reasoning called the refutation of called birth from things that exist or that are non-existent. And then with regard to analysis into all these three aspects, the causal, the nature, and the resultant thing results, you have the reasoning of the dependent origination. And therefore Master Nagarjuna uses this reasoning to say that things are empty. And so he says what arises through dependence are said to be empty, and that itself is merely designated, and therefore that is the middle way. And then he goes on to say that wherever is dependent, there is nothing that is not dependent. Therefore, there's nothing that is not empty. And so, from these lines, what you have to understand is that the Master Nagarjuna, when asserting that things have no intrinsic existence, he's not being nihilistic, but he's saying that because things are dependently arisen, therefore they do not have any intrinsic existence as such. And so, from this, what you understand is that whatever comes to your mind, whatever things are there, they do not have any kind of independent existence, that things arise through dependence on other causes and conditions, other factors, whether it be the external objects or internal experiences. Everything is without any intrinsic existence. And so when if you really give thought to this, what you can get at is that when you can destroy any and all objectifications of things, in things. And so so that you get to the point of saying that nothing whatever has any solidity, any independent, solid or intrinsic identity or entity as such. And so that helps to counter your grasping at some true independent existence in things. And so when you are able to do away with that, grasping at any kind of independent existence, true independent existence in things, that in turn helps to reduce your exaggerated outlook on things, which is technically we use the term inappropriate mentation. And so that exaggerated outlook, its intensity also kind of is reduced. And so when that happens, those of the negative emotions such as attachment, anger, and so forth also cannot arise, and so they also are reduced. And so in this way, what you see here is that this understanding or insight into the things self having no intrinsic independent existence is actually the counterforce to your grasping at some intrinsic independent existence in things. Whereas there are other practices, other antidotes, as we say, that can be developed. For example, in the case of our anger or hatred, it can be countered by the meditation on love. And then similarly, you can develop the insight into the repulsive nature of our body and things, and that can counter our attachment and desirous attachment to things. But these antidotes do not become antidotes which can actually shake the root of the grasping at true existence. So the very factor that can shake the root of this grasping at true existence is this understanding that things do not have any independent intrinsic existence. And so through these, you would develop this understanding that this is the path or the antidote, which actually uproots your grasping at the true independent existence and things. And this the grasping at true existence is also called an ignorance, and this kind of fundamental ignorance is said to permeate all kinds of all our cognitions or experiences. Just as in the 400 verses of Aryadeva, it is mentioned that just as the bodily sense faculty permeates all the rest of the senses, sensory faculty, likewise this ignorance, the fundamental ignorance, permeates all our negative, destructive emotions. And therefore, he goes on to say that with all your effort, what you should do is that with all your efforts. Yes, and so all these negative emotions, attachment, anger, and so forth, can be overcome by overcoming this fundamental ignorance. And when it comes to overcoming this fundamental ignorance, he goes on to say in the 400 verses that through the understanding that things have things are dependently arisen, you can develop this understanding that things have no intrinsic existence. Therefore, this things are empty, and therefore, with all your effort, you should first understand or state that this very fact that things are empty, to counter this fundamental ignorance. And so, when you are able to understand and see things in this kind of perspective, that the fundamental ignorance is the factor which gives rise to the rest of the negative emotions and so forth, and that it can be countered through this understanding of the emptiness of any independent existence in things, then you will see some kind of have a taste of what Buddhism is about, trying to get at. And through this kind of understanding of selflessness as the antidote or the counterforce to our fundamental ignorance, then you will be able to see the quality of a Buddha in terms of being someone who is a reliable teacher. And so, therefore, in Master Dignaga, in his Pramana Samuccaya, goes on to say that the Buddha was someone who has become a reliable or authoritative person. And so, in terms of this kind of, through this kind of understanding of how to deal with this ignorance, and of course, when we say that the Buddha is someone who is the reliable and authority in terms of dealing with our negative emotions and so forth, through this understanding of selflessness, then we may praise the Buddha or say the Buddha is the supreme kind of teacher, but that is not to show any kind of disrespect to other founding teachers of other religious traditions. But here, what we should understand is that the Buddha is someone who actually has shown the path to us or taught us the path through his own experience of it. And therefore, the Master Tsongkhapa goes on to say in his praise to the Buddha for teaching dependent origination or relativity, he says that the Buddha taught well through his own experience of what reality actually is. And therefore, this reality of emptiness, that things have no independent existence, is the factor which actually shakes our own grasping at true existence. And then he goes on to say that, those who have stayed outside of your tradition, referring to the Buddha, outside of your traditions, instead of countering or trying, being able to eliminate and work against this grasping at true existence, their tradition kind of it strengthens the grasping at some true existence. On top of this innate kind of grasping at the true existence of self and phenomena, these other traditions kind of affirm that there is some kind of a solid existence of self. And so it's like putting an extra kind of a fence around that innate self, grasping. And therefore, by seeing the difference between the teaching of the Buddha and the teaching of other traditions, Master Tsongkhapa goes on to say that and so one who has actually understood this difference between the teaching, from the core of their heart, his or her heart, becomes very becomes convinced of the teaching of the Buddha. How can someone who has found this difference and seen the difference not have this reverence to the Buddha from the core of their heart? And so what this all gets to is that we need, in order to, of course, gain understanding and insight into this teaching, we need to go through the threefold process of, hearing or studying the teachings. And then that alone is not sufficient, because it's a very superficial kind of understanding, could be very superficial understanding and insight into the teaching. But what we need to do is contemplation of the teaching. And so through this contemplation, and using reasoning and so forth, what you actually get at is the conviction, deeper conviction in the teaching. And so through that conviction, you can use that conviction in your meditation so that you are able to develop the experience within yourself. And therefore, Master Tsongkhapa goes on to say that whatever I have heard, I will through the fourfold reasoning or fourfold principle, and try to gain an ascertainment in your teaching. And so through this is the process of, and at the level of reflection. And so through reflection, then you will be able to gain conviction into the teaching of the Buddha. And so in order to be able to do this kind of thing, what you need to actually have is the knowledge of the different philosophical schools, assertions of different philosophical schools. Because if you are just stuck with one, school of thought, you may not have much, to do kind of analysis. But when you have when you know or study all the different traditions, then you can actually compare and contrast them and see the difference and the profundity of the teaching of the Buddha and so forth. And so because of that, even in India, Master Bhaviveka, he wrote this Tarkajwala, and called and so this in this text, this is like in our tradition we have a genre of text, a certain genre of text which is called Trupta, which is to say the philosophical systems of thought. And so this text by Master Bhaviveka is like one form of these philosophical systems of philosophy. And in this text there is also a mention, to give you a story here. He he mentions that Master Asanga and his younger brother Master Vasubandhu, and because they deviate from differ from the system of Master Nagarjuna, and whom he mentions who was someone who was prophesied by the Buddha himself to interpret and explicate his teaching, not following such a master who's prophesied by the Buddha himself, but then interpreting the teaching otherwise. Because of that, they are shameless. And so that is what he mentions. And so, based on this...
So those masters, you see, when they carry argument, their tongue quite sharp. Sometimes. Like that.
And so, based on this text by Bhaviveka, then in Tibet,
all this, because Buddha himself, you see, told us, tumnam tikpo chui mitrushing, royadunga chaka misela, shanye tok, kaza niki tokwa shanla pomendi, chunye tempa chawanjurus, jisongdo.
So, the Buddha himself says that the sages do not wash away the sins of sentient beings, nor do they remove suffering of sentient beings with their hands. Neither do they, shift or transfer their own realization into others. But they lead beings to liberation by teaching the truth of, or the reality.
And 좀 전에 그 뒤송도가 내니 켜라 탈배 남된지 탈바 랑라 라래 시버지스. 나도 좀 개봉도.
So the Buddha also has mentioned that I have taught you the path to liberation, but liberation is actually, in your hands. And so what he's saying is that you have the responsibility to attain and work for that liberation.
Now, 9th chapter, that book, beginning of 9th chapter. 야라데다 탐정인데 투베 시럽 단독 송스. 대신은 동에다 시월데베 시럽기
37. 137.
디사브시도가. 산지심된 대기 애니 추즈 몽고 송셔버 디디 애니 그 시럽기야 전달을 했어. 다 시럽 줘. 동이도베 다음에도 시럽들 동이도베 시럽들. 그래서 동이도베 시럽디 애니 동엔세야게 자와 띠무 댄진세야데 매버서야 그냥 뭐 터도디 돈이도 싫어디 근데 이번 인도산에 아니 아주 진네 싫게 버렸어 대난전에 당연 싫게 버렸어 대바치고가 연구 말했어.
So what this verse teaches is that all the different teachings of the Buddha were given by him in order to develop wisdom, and for us to develop wisdom. And the wisdom here specifically refers to the wisdom realizing emptiness. And so the emptiness of any intrinsic independent existence in things. And this is the factor which can counter, the ultimate factor which can counter our grasping at true existence.
Yeah. 쟤네다 어느 시럽 건지를 쓰고 그랬을나? 돈유도에 시럽이 시고. 돈유도에 시럽이 다 동반이 있어야 돼. 건지를 쓰고 그래. 다 디직 시고 이거 있잖아. 아니 시제 처리야. 담반이 있어야 돼. 이니 요레스. 능주 마다 마제베 로이 그게다 통대야. 로 양순용대야기 추주를 뭐 직세. 그러다 다시 쟤니 인욱 컨디션도 봐봐 쟤니 디니야기 된 직세. 단 달라야 아니 터두제베다 릭시기 녀야지. 다 달라 단도다 마스도 와. 다 타녀제베 르 조대야디 군조다 마스도 와. 도스네 담바니부터 시작하래스. 다 담바니체 송가고 가르슬람나 아니 ngaranzu mig the nawa the not the chit dizu jegi ta kan lo rawa dizu jegi ene nelu yinlu lo ko jegi me bi zan di yinlu sing ma res ba so yinlu sha sing de ko ba da shi chen ro res da de 단동 로이 주민 sa lo di lo 다시 안다 kunlam을 붙이 이 시롱 쉬버리 kunlam을 좀 전에 단동 로이 주민 sa lo 되다 아니 난저방에 로시기 고모 남게 네 사가 로 니부디 맨자리도 와 아주 비난도 로 찍버려 레자께 나한테 맨자리 숨기 자사가 이게 아다 단동 로이 주민 sa 로디 니난쟁 로텔 배시 숨기요 고토야 지레샤 레자가 쓰더라 디 사이 숨기 디 들려야지 아예 메이나 도와주는 사람이 캐시 숨기 다 샹게 난저방에 로시 있어야지 다 전담 지식이 다 려간라 잘해야지 더 도스도 저들이 인도산에 돈이 나왔으니 때 사무 동반이 있어야 돼 안한저다 시bat 지단 마다 맞으면 시bat 로 랑가와 뜻을 저기 시금 말했어 코파 딱전 째니 다 되게 있어야지들이 가당 아주 탄에 샤시베 최디디 탄에 모두 녹서도 가봐도 봐봐 째는 째는 이해해도 샤인 것도 봐 어디지 지금도 그게 그래 한다 뭐 얘기를 듣니 샤고 쳐봤어 디스크 가르쳐 가
Buddha-Politas.
Buddha-Politas, 저는 뭐 얘기 주요나 뭐부터 대 다샤션 저거지. 때 뭐부터 대 디리스는 샤트야 봐. 그 때는 따고 저거도 와. 진짜 인도 그 뭐부터 뭐 가다 가이네 간다 디리스는 팔면은 조조서 매버 차네. 팬은 저기야래. 인도산에 다 부드버리드나 사우샤요래 민거 왕게 여바스 타니지 왕게 여바스디 사우 쉬우지래 또 타니지 왕게 여바스 소인도 전에 자시로기 가서 관계 댄신 저번 중 통원 되니 동해다 군중탄은 고바다 람디 니기 통인스 왜야 그러셔디 동번이 그 되는데 댄지 저번 중 샤인 거요 댄지 저번 중 와서 뚜루 샤인 거요 뚜루 샤인도 전에 저부 줄을 때바데 다 에네 겐기 저번 주가 되디 교진이 저번 주가 쓰디 에네 신도 태기도 봐 그다 공원이 좀나 교진이 저번 주 말아 다 때바다 마대바 응만게라 봐 그다 들을 때에 그도네 개와다 에네 간다지 가서 그렇게 어디서 제에네 개와로 응가게 경계사들 몽구시야 되듯이 참여형 송소지 있다 쉬우지 내가 쳐버리셨지 봐 애니로이 주주 신주도 중주사도 제대 빼나가셔 버다 어다 디디 가사 어디는 지리 니는 대만 전동로요 로는 그저 임버죠 어다 대샤 그냥 자성다 now time for tea.
So when we talk about emptiness, what is the meaning of emptiness has to be understood. And so in order to understand the meaning of emptiness, we need to understand the two truths. And so which are the divisions of the objects of knowledge. And when we talk about the two truths, there is this truth which is called just the appearance of things, and when we where we do not do any kind of a philosophical or analysis and investigation into their nature as such, but we take them on the surface level. And whereas to go deeper into the reality, we need to do this analysis of how things exist, and you need to try to have the understanding and to develop that understanding into the final nature of things, which is emptiness. And so this cannot be found through our, the sensorial perceptions as such, but such as the eye, consciousness, and so forth, but through your analysis into the deeper nature of things, this critical analysis into the nature of things, that kind of wisdom can find emptiness. And so with regard to the text itself, here in the second verse it mentions relative and ultimate. These are the two truths. These are the two truths are declared to be. The ultimate is not within the reach of intellect, and for intellect is said to be the relative. And so in the Tibetan, the term for both the Sanskrit words, which are in the third and fourth lines in this verse, is the same word in Tibetan law is used. Whereas according to Master the Kinori Master, Kun Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen, he says that in Sanskrit there are two different words. So the first law in Tibetan refers to this dualistic perception, whereas the second one refers to the mind, which actually is this analysis into the analytical mind into the ultimate nature of things. And so, and also in the and later on, there is also mention of this mind, or called in terms of the yogics, differing in their progressively differing in their understanding. That called intellect or the mind is this kind of ultimate analysis, mind analyzing in the ultimate nature of things. And so in Buddha Palita's writing, the commentary of Mulla Madhyamaka Karika called Buddha Palita, he also mentions that if things were to have, so what we are getting at is this, that things do not have any intrinsic existence, and therefore Master Buddha Palita says, if things were to have any kind of intrinsic existence in and of themselves, what need is there to say that things are dependent or originated? You can just have point to the things themselves and say, this is it, but that's not the case. And so, and then he also mentions that things are merely nominal and that they are conventionally designated through conventions. And so, similarly, in the case of Master Nagarjuna, he mentions that things are dependent or originated, and therefore, you gain this understanding of how the suffering, the true suffering, arises through that of the true origin, and so forth. And therefore, what we need to understand is that things are empty means that things have no independent existence as such, which means that things are dependently originated, and therefore when you because things are empty, to say that, it is feasible to say that things are dependently originated and vice versa. And so because what is dependent and what is independent are diametrically opposites, and therefore we also, it's important also to understand what we call the opposites of things. Things in terms of like dependent and independent nature of things and so forth. So to understand that there are things which are opposites, and so these are presented more and explained in detail in the Pramana texts of the ancient Indian tradition. And so it's important also to study these things as well.
Okay, now tea.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, His Holiness. Yesterday you told us about compassion, and I have a simple follow-up question. I don't think I understand the difference between love and compassion, and if you can help us understand that.
Love, the compassion.
I think yesterday, love and compassion differences,
Yes.
I don't know. According to the Oxford dictionary, I don't know. Usually I just use love, compassion like that. So they're more precise or deeper level as far as compassion, as I mentioned earlier. compassion which we are trying to cultivate and increase, finally, infinite love, that is biased, unbiased, based on solid reasons. That's, I think it is, the Shantadeva's book really mentioned that. I may start briefly, or I may mention briefly. So usually our love, compassion is more oriented about others' attitude, and usually I think mixed with attachment. That's biased, no sound basis. Then the precise the difference meaning, love and compassion, that you should research. I don't know. Oh yes. Yeah, one lady. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Your Holiness. Yesterday you said that the Pali tradition is the basis for Buddha Dharma. Can you elaborate a little bit more on this?
Can you be louder, please?
Pali.
Oh, yesterday you said that the Pali tradition is the basis of Buddha Dharma. Can you elaborate a little bit more on this?
As I mentioned yesterday, it's a Pali tradition, not much use reasoning. So certain point, for example, impermanence, Buddha stated. Then Sanskrit tradition, why Buddha stated things are impermanent, then a lot of reasons. I think that the first Dharma wheel, Buddha taught, not extensively use reason. The second Dharma wheel, then Buddha used the reasons. So the Nalanda tradition mainly follow the reason. Of course, all these Buddhist teaching, but extensively use reasoning. So, like an Nagarjuna text, all 27 chapter, always except a few cases, Buddha says that. Otherwise, they all reasoning. So therefore, they later, Dignac and Dharmakirti, and also Shantarakshita, they wrote separate text for logic. Right? Next question? Yes. I think you may ask more loudly. Okay, I think.
Your Holiness, my question is, how do you let go of yourself? Right? The society that I grew up in is very individualistic. We always taught what will you do in life? What will your legacy? It's always directed to the individual. And what we learned this morning is you have to let go of yourself. How do we as young Indians get on that process of letting go and unlearning what we have been taught at some level?
Karasa. Yeah. Taking care of oneself, it's basis for our survival. But if it goes extreme, just think oneself, not thinking the well-being of other. It's actually, you see, the other is the basis of your own well-being. So, for example, you see, when we feel hungry, we love this cookie. That does not mean we really love this, but it need me, it help us. So you see, we take care. Similarly, rest of the your community, you see, your own survival depend on these people. I think you can, even dogs, some dogs, moths or what's it, because of social kareda. Mada, social, some dogs getting ready,
the dogs who are more, interactive with other dogs can actually, go together with them.
They remain more peaceful, and I think that remain, you see, with other dogs. So I think in deep inside they feel safer. Then some dogs, you see, whenever another dog comes, because of
Barking.
and remain lonely. I think in deep inside, some kind of sense of insecurity there. So that's, we are using common sense, not these difficult subjects. Not talking about shunyata, not necessary. So use common sense. Look, you see, any community, I think a person who really showing, the sense of community and showing sort of because of the concern for well-being of the community, then everybody, you see, loves that person. When that person die, then everybody say, "Oh,
How sad.
how sad! You see, that wonderful person now no longer." And too much selfish, self-centered attitude, self-centered person never show sort of affection to other. Then, when that person die, then I think most of the community member feel, oh, wonderful, now that's gone. So that's nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with Buddhism. Common sense. Okay. Yes? Loudly, loudly. Not necessary, I think. Yes? Okay, then there.
Somebody. As you were talking about this morning, if there is no self, if there is no independent entity, then why are we here? What's the point of setting us up to grasp at something when there's nothing to grasp at? That seems to be our initial desire, is to find the self, but it's not there. So what are we doing here?
So the emptiness does not mean nothingness. Emptiness, the absence of independent existence. Now here, you are talking, or you are putting some question. What is the real person who putting question? Just this, your body or mind? Beside that, where is yourself? What do you feel? And your body, head, face, your hand, these are part of the body. But where is the body? And your hand, 5 fingers, palms, these are part of the arm, hand. But since these are part of the hand, so the charging.
So where is this the hole called the hand?
Where? So you see, 차다 차진, 양라다 양라진, slowly, rules are.
So when we talk about things in terms of parts and the whole, or things which have parts, like that. When you try to actually search for them, what is called a whole and what is called a part, you are not able to find anything that you can pinpoint as being this or that.
Now you can ask quantum physicist, where is the thing? Where is the object? They say nothing. This is not religious sort of thinking. Simply, the scientists, they really analyze. Then finally, they found nothing objectively. So this is the same way. Like that. Okay. So you are seeing me. Yes, without any investigation, yes, you can say there's one monk, there's Dalai Lama. But actually you are seeing my physical, not, and according my my talk, you can hear my voice, and then judging my talk, you may get some understanding what kind of thinking going on. But all these, that person's voice, that person's body, where is the person? Where is the Dalai Lama? You are just seeing Dalai Lama's body and hearing Dalai Lama's voice. And to some extent, you can read the Dalai Lama's mind. But where is Dalai Lama? You can't find. So like that. Next question?
Question, go down.
I think your voice may be okay. Loudly.
Emptiness, how can it become Niruddha?
Kasa.
Don't need to go then can this shadow yourself. Don't need to go then can this
Go again.
Niruddha.
Oh,
No.
go there. No. Deeper sort of understanding about Shunyata, then we can realize sort of the Tenzin.
Grasping at some true independent existence and things.
So that Tenzin ki any chumiji namdo jigi yabadi kasgan rati chenrik we ti shegdwa. The chigi the peshichik marte.
So, based on this grasping at some independent, solid, true existence and things, then what happens in us is that we get a notion or exaggerated way of looking at things. Or even the scientists, they also talk about it.
So, judging these as the thing, then you may realize all these negative emotion is no sound basis, but ignorance. Then the ignorance is very nature of the mind. Then whenever our mind become active survey.
Yes.
You see, that kada lokmunjuwa kadu jebe kaduli ni tenzin jekwayachi. De jigmindu ba. 다음에 고야 오 차례는 다음에 아니 가서 그게 땅을 2주 좀 차샤네. 다음에 2주 좀 지금 예번에 된 글로디 문주르기. 그 벽에 저 많이 버린다라. 다도 집어디 폐질 숙성을 용마래. 그 로이 진단계와 배나 차와다 창원스러워 있는 그 레제톤에 균기 가서 배 균기던 견대설지. 님도 때문에 좋지. 어다 디는시 로 수제 말이데 로인 진단 면접에 터네 로는 겨도와. 배나 유직을 착별로되다 유지구들라 당외로 니부디 투지를 용도고 말봐. 가래서 런지단 개발해도. 그래서 지리 인주산에 그 다음에 거로 야고 차는데 그로 상담이나 그 댄싱기 로코 충도 돼야지 다시 먼저다 쳐봐투야래. 근데 뒤직세. 아니 콜로 팔베 그도 송야기 유지에서야 직세. 다든에 콜로 탐에 그도 송야기 sem런 신지 왜서 써야지. 연대는 신 이든실 주문은 루브르와 신은 송샤야지. 다 디상로 야고 담베이나 다 디니 제인드자네 아니 치즈로로 록식로 디디 그로 한지 정신의 shum에부터 직 아니 로 디디기 진당 편을야 내매부터 니 디니 도미운도 디디 반 제트야 임바지 아니 추적이 담에도 로디 땡땡바 시바도 되딩에 시베나네 이루도 되딩에 근데 이르잖아요 그 땡땡바 땡땡바 지 타네 용대베 연대디디 공 가서 지금 공신 배주 짤만은 몇 봐. 그 무튼이 공변조 해야지. 근데 이들만 싸움 따요나. 아니 심지어 좀 세트야 임바지. 인 배시도 그래. 독서는 거든 좀 용기하래.
So when you gain some good understanding of what selflessness means, what happens is, as long as your mind is kind of focused and well absorbed in that meditation or the thought of selflessness,
here, Lord, hot water. That's truly emptiness.
So as long as this, the influence of the impact of this, realization or the insight or the understanding of selflessness is there, I mean, to that extent, you will not have an actively, arising, grasping at some kind of independent existence of self. So, because these two, these grasping at self of a person or phenomena, and that of the realization of selflessness are, called opposites that counter. I mean, the selflessness is the total opposite of that grasping. I mean, the understanding is the opposite of that grasping at the self. And so it's like when you have a hot and cold, where there is a hot, when the hotness and the coldness cannot remain longer. And similarly, it is the case with, so long remains. Long. So, of course, you can have a place where you can say this is cold, there is coldness and both hotness there, but where the hotness specifically is, I mean, as long as there is that heat, I mean, to that extent, the coldness cannot remain in the same place. And so, similarly, in the case of our experience, these two experiences of attachment to things and that of anger cannot remain together simultaneously. And
also like the knowledge.
No.
As soon as knowledge A develop, the ignorance of A no longer there.
Yes. So they cannot remain together simultaneously. And so, and therefore, now here, when your mind is actively kind of focused on selflessness, what it can this insight can help is to reduce your grasping at true existence in things as well. And so, because things are empty, there are these reasonings that you can use. I mean, understanding of emptiness on the one hand, and there is this understanding or insight into emptiness, which can counter your grasping at true existence and things, is one reason why we can overcome this grasping at true existence and things, because things do not have any intrinsic independent existence. Therefore you can develop this insight into the lack of independent existence on the one hand to counter this, and on the other hand another reason why we can eliminate or overcome this this kind of grasping is because the grasping at true existence and things and self is not in the intrinsic nature of the mind itself, because the intrinsic nature of mind is that of luminosity or clear light, as it says. And so because of these two reasons, we can say that the very fact that the intrinsic nature of mind is luminosity or clear light, and therefore the defilements cannot remain forever in the mind, that you can get rid of them. And this is one reason. And the other one is that things are empty of any intrinsic existence. And so through these two factors, we can actually say that we can overcome the defilements from our mind stream. And therefore, true cessation is possible. And on the other hand, also, the fact that mind has this quality whereby, which is to say that the more you acquaint with your mind with something, some experience, some object, when the very basis for that kind of understanding and cognition and insight is stable. You have a stable basis for developing those qualities within your mind.
Yes, next question.
Your
Hello.
Holiness.
I've already started. Yesterday I had a bit of a practice of how to get my question answered. His Holiness, what practices I can undertake to make my understanding stronger about this concept of selflessness? One is this. And second is, what preparation must I do before I consider myself to be loving kindness and compassionate person? How should I prepare myself for it, and how do I become stronger about being selflessness? The concept, how I bring it in my life. Thank you.
I think the rest of the chapter of this book, immense sort of useful to develop altruism. I myself, this is a certain level of altruism reach because of this book. Wonderful. And then selflessness, that's almost, I think, unique about Buddha Dharma, and particularly the unique thing about Madhyamaka philosophy. So, in Madhyamaka Mulakarika, I think 24th chapter is mentioning the different views within Buddhist school of thought. They consider this philosophy is nihilism. A lot of criticism there. So even, you see, within Buddhist and even within Buddhist school of thought which accept Chejitami.
Selflessness of phenomena.
Still, you see, find the Nagarjuna's viewpoint is something extreme and nihilism. So therefore, I think for the time being, if you feel more comfortable, there is Atma. Then you should think that. Much better. As I mentioned yesterday, You see, those people who believe God, Creator, feel more comfortable, then believe that. And meantime, be warm-hearted person, sort of a sensible person. Then you will be a good member of the human community. Isn't it? Whether there is Atma or not, it's something different level. So simply,
you should not try to push yourself with something that doesn't really suit you. So in the case of the Buddha himself, sometimes I also feel that having taught the varieties of teachings, given varieties of teachings in accordance with the mental dispositions of different disciples and followers, at the end, then the Buddha stated, monks and scholars, just as a gold is tested by burning, rubbing, and cutting, likewise, you should examine my teaching and not just, and accept it, not because you revere me. And so, having taught on all these different teachings, at the end, he had to say this, because he taught it out of his love and compassion for the different disciples, according to their disposition, mental disposition. And but otherwise, with regard to this understanding of emptiness, if you do not really understand what emptiness means, in the sense that emptiness means that things are dependently originated, that there's nothing independently existing, and if you're not able to understand that, emptiness means this, that things are dependently originated, but just say that, oh, things are empty, without really understanding it well, then it doesn't serve the purpose.
Like quantum physicists, you see, they already sort of understand the external thing, nothing objectively exists.
So even the quantum physicists, because they are not able to assert the fact that things are nominally existing, conventionally existing, therefore they tend to say that things have no external or objective existence.
유딩네 매바 자다바 타셔로 다 펜은 제겐데 가르슬럼나 단 지금 착배권에 여봐 사다 되기 아니 체다 디세도 땅다디 전쟁 먼저 주고 때네 매바 타셔인 전에 그 땅도 세용도 그래서 딱세 그 탄이 써야 돼 어디 땡중 그 대권은 있어야 돼 시부르셔 아주 지름치기 아니 지금 그거 전혀 대해서 뭐 거기 되면 또 땡지 잡아 주고 송 강시 타면 돼도 다음에 뭐 송을 했으면 송체 동니 송을 했으면 송체 땡진 잡아 주고 송을 했어야 돼 땡중 그 대권은 있어야 돼 짜도 되는 송거도 와 대인의 탄이 다 직접도 써서 탄이 자수요 하다가 탄이 직접도 써야게 누가 여러 버려요. 저상한테 점심 한도 치면 나올 수 있는데 아니 사무 우면식으로 장배초 최기롱을 정신 매발라 견제 땡땡 적과 까매장 단저 우면론의 인의시 되게 많이 쓸려 때는 제스 내가 말해도 삼다 거로지 금지를 실래 아니 대상 세계 말에 지 소소 집중기 타네 르 니버로 거의 또스야 선언 개봉 여덟시 된지기 타네 아니 동문이기 따와로 전도셔서 연구를 받을래 나보자니 언제야 다 같이 인텔렉츄얼是吧 intellectual 新疆家他们这些때문에 그 세미나로 초월해 돼야 돼 가오래 그 총이 숨지 신다的的一说要我去家里啊感到说那我说就大的这里인도산에 안다 야란지다 참지는 특别시로 전도 송송하고 돼 시로 장장 송 저기요는 야란지다 참지는 샤와 캠도 와 그러다 그 소는 거 자 가서 차 몽고지 저도 제배 전에 아니 동력이 나와 부다 쉬어서 깨고야 되는지야 젊으시 남다나리 세배 아래 고도 있는 젊으시 시로님 송배 거도래 배 가도 동원이기 배 시로님 송배 담에 짐이사 디컬을 배 선배 시험을 배 투배 제지도 내니 배 띵진은 내니 아니 패시디 대말배 송불 말배 소 저지 좀 긴거 말다 간다 띵진을 배 다음에 배 띵진을 다음에 배 띵서배 제시도 내야 돼 그거 숨겨래 아니 고들라마 우모버 이버요 전에 아니 전에 아니 지수 잡아야리야 아니 내 따와데 태랑 따와 가이나서 태랑 관계 따와 말해서 송을 좀 어느 태유 따와 근데 스토어를 주잖아요 소소 주중시 손도 아니 좀 차려야 돼 성불 표지 배 지금 뒤집에 개별 공부들이 여등에게 다가다 뒤집에 자라만 걸려 송준나니 쉬베 겁다가 아니 수자배한 게 차제를 펴네 아니 소소 주중체니 이 동력다 준비기는 또 그러마도 다들 네 용말했어 아니 이 최신의 디도 삼을로 같이 시스템을 당연히 라마 배 패송 세니 참아 배심 껴야 지금 안에 아니 점지 차제를 펴버려 지나 최저로상 저것도 왜 소소 주중난에 돈이 전도치야 중심마도来了没多实际上俺这个看掉了去都现地质公园要嘛的
With regards to the things being empty and while being empty, that things do exist. Master Chandrakirti in his Madhyamaka Avatara says that just as we do the sevenfold analysis with regard to a chariot, likewise, the self also can be analyzed through that reasoning. And so when you actually use the sevenfold reasoning to prove that things have no existence, independent existence, yet the things, the chariot and self, a person and so forth, do exist by way of worldly convention, what is renowned in the worldly convention. And so, we have all these experiences, seeing things and feeling things and so forth. These cannot be denied. But these do not exist independently or as intrinsic existence, but they do affect us in our life. The experiences and things do affect us. Therefore, they do exist by way of convention. And when you understand that things do exist by way of convention, it helps to do away with this, extreme view of nihilism. And when you understand that things do not have any intrinsic, objective, independent existence, that helps to do away with the extreme of eternalism or permanence. And so Master Tsongkhapa, he, in his praise to the Buddha for teaching dependent origination, says that all these, called misfortunes in the world happen because of not understanding that things are dependently origination. And therefore, he says, when you understand that things are dependent originated, then all these problems can be solved. And so here, in this praise, he praises the Buddha for teaching dependent origination, not saying that he has taught selflessness or emptiness, but dependent origination is the reason that he uses. And so he also goes on in his the great insight section of the great treatise of the path to enlightenment. Also, he mentions that my friend, you who may have studied the profound Madhyamaka texts, for you, perhaps it's going to be difficult to accept that things do not have any intrinsic existence, yet they are. They do exist by way of convention. These, to accept these may become difficult for you, but then it is better for you to rely on these authentic teachings that are found in the tradition.
거기서 보게 돌링 잡아야는데 지된바에 응어통신 양산이동 똑치기스 규모도 멤버들 나셔버던 지된 저사데 아니 슈데 소소 무슨 얘기하니 작배인지 세매민 어디 됐습니다. 드리셔
verse number 5 on page 138 says, when ordinary folk perceive phenomena, they look on them as real and not illusory. This then is the subject of debate, where ordinary and yogis differ. And then it goes on to say, form and so forth, which we all perceive, exist by general acclaim, but not by valid reasoning.
단디 리스웨 소소 무슨 이야니 작배인지
no
참매민
직접 두고
리스원
제가 당분이래
어디들 다들에게 오늘 next question
Namaste, Holiness. Thank you. Yeah, Namaste. Holiness, yesterday you talked about the teaching compassion to the kids in the educational system. I would like to hear mention, I came from the country which they are not allowing to teach compassion to kids. And I am a psychologist. I am trying to find the way that we can teach the compassion in a better way. And the thing is, because whatever system, whatever educational system is there, it is under control of the government. So they don't want you to be compassionate. They want you learn more and more becoming angry. And I am like, I don't know how I can do this for at least next generation.
The secular way to promote these things is based on scientific finding. Nobody can deny the scientific sort of finding. I think briefly yesterday also I mentioned. Nowadays, I feel there's more sort of psychologists and scientists now should say more. Then eventually, you see the public level, you see kind of gradually sort of more awareness, this warm-heartedness is very, very useful for our own health and happy family. And eventually, the longevity is where?
No. Longevity, no.
Oh. So that's, I think nobody can deny. Then common sense is a common experience. I think the most sort of effective way is the scientists. Now, for example, the ecology. When I first came to India, no idea about ecology. Then I learned from scientists. Then I developed full conviction. So sometimes I feel a little critical view about present American president. He don't care about ecology. Even the Paris
Climate Accord.
he withdraw. So, like that, I learned from scientists. Similarly, these inner value, compassionate sort of inner feeling, is something important for our own health. And you lady, I think quite attractive. So you see, if you are beautiful face, showing smile, or even more sort of beautiful face, looking angry face, they don't like any person. Okay. So, it's common sense now. Like that. I think therefore, now this country, you see, there is, I think, ground to promote these inner value through education. So once more sort of also they commonly use such sort of secular ethics in the secular education field, then more and more people then show interest and more country. Like that. Next question?
Hi. Okay. Yesterday we talked a lot about this sense of global responsibility and how we should involve ourselves more in what happens to the rest of us and in helping others. And then we talked about how a lot of people is suffering and dying in wars and children starving and all these problems. But my question is, nowadays one of the biggest problems we have is the overpopulation. And so for me it creates kind of a disjunctive. What's the right way of acting towards this? If we help people who is dying and suffering, we actually contribute to these other problems. So I want to know if maybe I'm not seeing this problem right, or what solutions do you see?
True, that's true. When we first came to India, 59, then in 6 days we used to say 6 billion human beings. Now 7 billion within the last few decades. Now if this goes continuously, at the end of this century, human population will reach 10 billion. So natural resources also now showing some limitation. And meantime, the serious matter is gap rich and poor. Look, it's in Bombay itself. Now, many poor people, completely neglected. Of course, fortunately, not dying. Some other places like Yemen. Really very sad. So then, your question is something very important. Now the birth control is very, I think, very relevant. And then the best way, through non-violent way, birth control is more monks, more nuns. Then one my friend, one Catholic practitioner. You see, he told me, in church, the priest, the condom. You see, on the sort of church, they say condoms should not use. But then, you see, later, seeing individual, you should use that. one Catholic practitioner. He's very sincere. Oh, so he told me once like that. So therefore, I think we should be practical, like that.
Your Holiness, yesterday you spoke about the importance of controlling your emotions and training them. I've been thinking about it ever since. It's a great idea, but how do you do that? How do you start training your emotions?
Through training, through familiarize the opposite side of destructive emotion. Familiarize, such as now this is the book, 6th chapter, mentioning how to practice tolerance, forgiveness, these things. So these, firstly, learned and think, use common sense, then you will get conviction. Oh, this is very true. Then, with that conviction, you yourself familiarize with this point. Then gradually, you see the intensity of negative emotion, because there is no profound, solid basis, so it becomes weaker, weaker, weaker. So that's the only way. Not through prayer, not through some ritual, but use of sort of intelligence. Like that. Okay, next question.
Your Holiness, I wanted to ask, how do you conclude the correctness of logic and reasoning? Because if you arrive at logic and reasoning from your past experiences, or through formal education, or through intuition, somewhere there is an emotional connect. So how do you differentiate that and arrive at the correctness of logic and reasoning? How do I know if I'm thinking of something, is that correct or not, when it has no emotional attachment?
Kasa, 정다전에.
report na ya ta ji ro kim zen chang ya de so ji ka so yang da bo yin mian di
ro
kan des ta chok chi ro ji samre su su nyam nyon dan de ni she di sam ba ta ta shi.
For example, my own case, when I was young, I follow my father's patent, very short temper. And then later part of my life is I follow my mother, very compassionate. So these, through awareness, what use anger? Even you see angry face, not nice. So even sort of the external sort of also the appearance with anger, no good. Then the deeper level, anger is very bad. Immediately destroy your peace of mind. Too much anger, even you see the good food come, you may throw it like that. So when you fully develop anger, even your closest friend come, you feel, oh, go away, like that. So therefore, result, you will be lonely person, as I mentioned earlier. The anger, self-centered attitude go together. So the altruism directly sort of oppose self-centered attitude. Side effect, anger also reduce. Like that. So these are training. Familiarize. Training means familiarize. By the way, familiarize. In order to carry familiarization, you see, firstly, you know using these things. So read this book. Like that. The 9th chapter, as I mentioned earlier, This is about emptiness. So that's quite complicated. So for the time being, no relevant. So the rest of the chapter, read. The first chapter mentioning about how wonderful altruism. Then second chapter, third chapter is some kind of ritual, no relevant. Then the fourth chapter, how to carry Bhagyu.
Heedfulness or carefulness, that's it.
Yes.
And then vigilant introspection.
Then it's a value.
And then the sixth chapter on patience.
So then,
and then chapter on diligence teaches us how to counter our laziness.
Which relevant for me. Today, something when something new, the altruism, the way to train altruism, manga jundu de meko no lo chanchik, takshem jigo no lo chanchik, kanda rigbutan in dradi, takshem jigo lo chanchik, shirashuk.
So, with that regard to that practice, there are two traditions or systems that are explained, given. One is called the sevenfold instruction of cause and effect, and then the other one is called equaling and exchanging self and others. And so, in overcoming your self-grasping, a selfish or self-centered attitude, it is more powerful to follow the second system of developing altruism.
So that's Shanda, there was a way to practice of infinite love. That way, exchange.
So in this chapter, Master Shandideva actually explains in detail that about reflecting on the shortcomings of self-cherishing attitude and also the advantage of cherishing others over oneself, from different angles.
So the lojongi dakshem ju loja di shiwoji gyumze saworesha gyumze no shiworesha.
So training your mind for altruism, following this practice or the tradition called training your mind, particularly in the case of equaling and exchanging oneself, is a very powerful method. And there's profound reasonings that are actually used to support the why you need to do this practice. And whereas, on the other hand, if we have to follow the other tradition or the system of developing altruism, which is called the sevenfold cause and effect instruction, you have to go through the meditation or recognition of all sentient beings having been one's mother. And so in that, it's when you really think deeply about it, you get into trouble sometimes, maybe, and because of getting into things which are, as we mentioned yesterday, about the three objects of knowledge, the extremely hidden phenomena. It may get into that kind of trouble. And so, on the other hand, it is said that the samsara, the cycle of existence, is without any end and beginning. And on the other hand, also it is said that all sentient beings have been our mother, in the past, in innumerable times. And so this is going to give some problem to think about, repaying their kindness and so forth for the development of altruism.
Oh yeah. 나 진진 개발와 사상당도가 다 근데 토는 상당인데 뭐냐 전에 아니 란진지 카타면 쳐그래 아니 현진지기 연대 란진지기 또저 상당나 내가도 더도 처먹고 진짜 다 가다디 안도 준준은 다 샴대 안돼 요래 아니 지금 동행 진입 대금 랑된 늘려죠 지금 대화 진입 대금 현된 늘려죠 다들 현재 동에다 양다 자월 마셔는 상제유도 민주주 코아나야 대화 매 담버려도 와 저분이 대가 녀르지 삼월로 랑주고 상당 현 삼마당 디기다 녀르 삼 디선이 용도 그래 저 다들 현재 동에다 양다 자월 마셔는 상제유도 민주주 코아나야 대화 매 타셔도셔 대외 경의 군세의 정주성계 따셔네 내내 대화를 놓아라 심시 수시 기룬 줄었어 아니 어디를 세상에는 사선 중원 정보도 남것인도 딱 와요 심지어 뻔도 매봐요 남한여주 시향쇼 다 진리로 삼루대에 지진 난간 내버던 저 지진 내줘봐 디지단에 내주는 저동에 싸워쇼 삼루 듣던데 직접 나나 지금 쉬고 지금 이것도 와 지금 뭐는 자네다 당연히 닝도 할래버지 지진 난간 마세가 팔로 삼던 거로 쉬고도 와 다 딘지죠야 내ኛ라 주무세루인부터 디디 동리가 다야 좋아지네 아니 구조진이 샤양가고 예요고 안외죠 되니 교원하고 누두다네 개월은 그 숙도기 개회연대 자수파로 초던로사 딩고데 대절로도 세게 나와 세전 랑글라는 내베 교로 라신도 스승되다 멀리 되네 게매봐 또저 탄에 담배도 좀 고반로 다동 고발도에 3대 이미지 조금에 봐라 닝시간 개버시 세네 다 소샤디 쉬우지래샤 그래서 가나이는 동리가 다와도 자주 섬시다 디니부디 나 오늘 지금 라당 전에 침배이나 어다 용업의 집에 소금 말을라 더도 시제 집에 소금 말에 달라되네 산지 방도 타르침에 산지 고방 톱해야지 그래도 쉬우지래샤 디리 베지야 오시대 디리 차상 셔버체 엔디도마 또 공직다 지금 란진진다 댄진 카트라메체 다 대대지 서비스 타르샤 란진진 고도만은 끼는다고 그래 이네 그냥 지리 싸우려
So although you need to see the shortcomings of self-cherishing attitude, I need to actually take some sweets as well. So thinking along that, in the development of this altruism, infinite altruism, you go through the process of, there is this point where you come to think about or reflect on the extraordinary kindness of sentient beings in a special way. And within that practice, you need to also, of course, go over the meditation on the shortcomings of thinking or reflecting on the shortcomings of self-cherishing attitude, and so that in this text by Master Shantideva, you will find lots of reasonings that are given to counter this self-cherishing attitude, so that it is made dumbfounded. And similarly, you come across lots of reasonings that are given to cultivate cherishing others over oneself. And so thinking about the temporary as well as short term as well as the ultimate benefit and goal of cherishing others over oneself is given there. And so through these practices one can develop this infinite altruism within oneself. And then with regard to this meditation on altruism, Master Shantideva goes on gives in the text mentions that all suffering in the world comes through cherishing oneself. and alone, and all the happiness or joy in the world comes through cherishing all others over oneself. And so, if you look in the world, we will find that all these problems that we undergo are because of this, cherishing oneself alone and not thinking of others' well-being. And therefore, it's important to cultivate this cherishing others over oneself. And then Master Shantideva goes on to say that if you're not able to exchange self, one's own happiness with the suffering of others, leave alone reaching Buddhahood, attaining Buddhahood, even in this cycle of existence, you'll not have happiness. And then when you train your mind through these teachings, based on these teachings, when you train your mind for altruism, and then you will come to also the point of feeling that you will dedicate yourself for others. And therefore Master Shantideva says that therefore which intelligent person would not ride the horse of bodhicitta, this infinite altruism, which will actually do away with all kind of despair and lead you from bliss to bliss. And then when your determination develops further and further, you will also come to dedicate yourself for the well-being of others, as Master Shantideva goes on to say in the same in this text. May I be an infinite or sustenance for living beings, like those of the great are called elements of earth and so forth, like as infinite as the space, and which will also give you this determination to work for others until the end of space, as he also makes this aspiration: as long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain in order to do away with the misery of the transmigratory beings. And so what we are trying to get at is this, through this, is that on the one hand we need to develop this skillful means, or the what is known as the method part of the practice, which comprise those of the altruism and so forth. And on the other hand, we need to also develop this understanding and insight into emptiness, so that you have both the wings of a swan with which you will cross the ocean of samsara, as Master Chandakirti mentions. With these two wings of conventional and ultimate bodhicitta, the bodhisattvas, fly and cross the ocean of samsara and reach that ultimate goal of Buddhahood. And then he also mentions that through the bodhisattvas, through their development of the wisdom, and based on the conventional, the wisdom of emptiness and that of the path, method aspect of practice, they also develop this great compassion for all sentient beings who are helpless. And so, in other words, we need to combine both the wisdom as well as the skillful means or method part of the practice, in order to, when you are able to do that, you will not only be able to, overcome or eliminate these negative, the mental afflictions, the kleshas, but also you'll be able to overcome those of the cognitive obscurations and become someone who has overcome both all the defilements within your mind stream, and have all the ultimate kind of realization or experience of omniscient state of Buddhahood. And so in order to reach that kind of ultimate goal, of course, you will need to do study of the text, the teaching, and then reflect on it, so that you'll be able to make this self-cherishing attitude and that of grasping at true existence both dumbfounded.
Okay. Now end. Oh. So now 2 days. I hope you get some sort of different ideas or some new ideas, hopefully. And I think at least some deeper knowledge about Buddha Dharma. So when you recite Dharmam Shanam Gacchami, then reflect these points. Now, so a few years ago, when I visit Kilang, this site, of course, the local people are Buddhist. So since my visit few times, so we already know each other. Then they brought some teas and some bread like that. And then I sit together, and then I ask them, and then I express, you follow Buddha Dharma. Then I ask, what is Buddha Dharma? They say, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. No, then I respond, yes. Then what is Buddha? What is Dharma? They say, we do not know. No idea. And then furthermore, I ask the Brahma and Buddha, same or different? They say same. So that shows how much ignorance due to lack of study. So therefore, now, whether we accept Buddha Dharma or not, up to individual. Once we have some sort of interest about Buddha Dharma, then we must study. And then, through study, some of the ideas mentioned in Buddhist text can apply to sort of people who follow other tradition. Okay. Then even non-believer, some of these teaching can be very useful. Right? Like that. So therefore, I myself, I feel little sort of service to limited people. So all this, you too create that opportunity. Thank you. Thank you. And especially you, last year at Kazade, Delhi. So you really dedicated or faithfully, you say, helping me create opportunity to Kasoda, to share these ideas. So thank you very much. So now, I think everybody, I think, are looking forward to lunch. So also the question here, what kind of lunch happen? Thank you. Now photo, Mare.